Welcome to another episode of Drunken Wisdom. I'm your host, Tantra Sumble, joined by Lane the Pain and special guest, made in Japan.
I'm made in Japan. The short of it is I moved from Australia to Japan at a young age, and I was like, yeah, let's just do YouTube and find out what happens. I just do vlogs of my life. So all of my content is just literally my life or just random topics.
And what I like about your channel is that, there are lots of vlog channels, but for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, your channel focuses on, like, shorter videos. Like, they're, like, 3 to 5 minutes long often, which I like because it's perfect bite size. It's not too short. I can't stand YouTube Shorts, but it's not too long where it's, like, even 10 minutes. A lot of people go for 10 minutes because of that ad revenue. Yeah. But it's, like, 10 minutes, I don't want to hear about some guy's life every day for 10 minutes. Yeah. But, like, 3 to 5 minutes, that's comfortable territory.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, now it's more like, now my videos are more shifting to the longer, because now
bad if I've just shot on your new trajectory.
No, it's all good. I mean, like, because actually, like, technically my day is probably like 7 minutes each, but like, because I combine now 2 days together rather than 1 day, because now it's like a daily vlog, but I do like daily vlog every second day, and then like the in-between day is just a random video. Like, I'll do a live stream or I'll talk about some random shit. So technically it's like 7 minutes per day basically or something like that. But yeah, they get longer as my time progresses, because especially in cherry blossom season anyway. Yeah. There's so many trees and shit, and I like trees. So.
It's still fucking cold here, isn't it?
It's freezing still. Yeah. It was fucking boiling, and then all of a sudden it was snowing, and I was like, yeah, sick.
It's like I never left Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's like Melbourne. So I was like, yeah, fantastic.
No, it was sweltering that one day. It was
fucking hot.
It was hot. Yeah. And then it got cold again.
Yeah, I was sweating. And then it just instant started snowing. And
this is a joke. Like, this is a God's joke on me, because I remember literally saying, bye winter. And then the next day it was freezing, and it stayed that way.
Thank God though. I mean, summer here is fucking terrible.
Well, it's funny because also that day that was really hot, I was thinking I already missed winter.
Yeah. And then winter came back. Came back.
Yes. Came back. I wonder if you're regretting it now. But yeah, I was gonna ask you. So, are you taking your content? You're taking your content in a new direction, and what kind of inspired that? So, going from the 2-minute videos to the longer stuff, what do you plan on doing in the near future?
Yeah, I think that it's more so that I feel like I don't do that much in a day. So I feel like combining 2 days together is more like I've done more. It seems like I've done more when it's really just 2 days, but because like I feel like some of my videos were just me waffling for like 5 minutes, and then the other like 30 seconds of the video was just like lunch, dinner, done. So now I've tried to shift to I guess making the content more streamlined. Like 2 days feels like there's more stuff to digest, I guess, in content. So.
Although I think how short your old videos were, because of the lack of content there is to cover in your day-to-day experience, really shows just how monotone the typical work-life culture is like in Japan. It's literally go to work, have lunch, go back to work, go back home real late,
cook dinner,
go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe, I don't know, do something in between dinner and sleep, but that only leaves you like to at most 3 hours.
Yeah, I think actually what shifted my content the most is the job change, because English teaching was fucking awful because of the time. Yeah. Specifically because, like, I mean, like, waking up in the fucking afternoon, 12 in the fucking afternoon, getting home at 9 at night. Yeah. Like, what am I fucking going to do at 9 at night? I'm going to jerk off and go to sleep. So it's like, what else am I going to do? Like, what else am I going to do in that time?
That's too real.
But now it's like I wake up at 7:30. I fucking shower. I get to work at 8:30. And then I finish work like 5:30, and I still have daylight. So I can actually do shit with my day. So I can actually show more than, like... what I used to be able to show, because I was just showing me going from my apartment to my fucking work and then back home.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the working as an English teacher in Japan is one of the most grueling experiences I think any human being could ever go through. Yeah, for sure. Especially because the first year I was in Japan, I taught children.
I think you were a Kaiwa, right?
No, I was actually in a real elementary school for my first year.
Interesting. And
I was a Kaiwa.
You were a Kaiwa. Yeah. I feel like, so that's interesting. I want to hear more about your experience. Typically, I hear the grueling learning experiences from Eikaiwa.
It's terrible, yeah. I mean, like, the hours are bad, but not only are the hours bad, it's like, I think the shift for a child is like they're forced to go to a Eikaiwa. Like school, you know, they have to go. It's not like, you know...
You're the fun teacher, right?
Yeah. And then, like, they come to Eikaiwa and they don't want to learn. They just want to chill and fuck around. But then your company's like, you got to teach them English or their parents are going to be pissed. And it's like, these kids don't give a fuck. They just had a fucking 14-hour day. Yeah. They went to fucking cram school. They did, like, tests all day. And now you're forcing them to come and learn English that they don't even fucking want to learn. So
yeah, you're confirming that the Eikaiwa, the image of it being grueling is accurate. Right?
It is accurate. Yeah.
But you were like Twotris. You're not Eikaiwa. You were like at actual school. So what was grueling about it for you?
Well, first of all, school.
And I feel that. Yeah.
But the thing about the schools in Japan is there's like this expectation that you are magically going to make all these kids fluent. Like you're going to walk into the classroom, open the textbook, and by the end of the year, every kid is going to progress and learn enough vocabulary for them to look in hindsight and feel, yeah, I learned enough English this year to feel proud of myself, which is never the case. And the reality is, one, it's very difficult to communicate with Japanese kids. This is a kind of a strange anecdote, but since they're speaking in Japanese, sometimes in order to communicate, you might use Japanese yourself, but you're technically not supposed to. And the kids don't know that you might be fluent. And so they might, like, if you say anything in Japanese and you get, like, the tone wrong, the intonation wrong, that kid will just run with that tone all fucking day. And then they won't even listen to what you have to say. They'll just make fun of your bad Japanese accent.
But... No, I mean, that's accurate. That's so true. Yeah. I know exactly the frustration. I'm like, here you are barely pronouncing 4. Yeah. And it's like it's like week 6. And you're in 5th grade and you've been learning this shit since 3rd grade. And you're making fun of me for mispronouncing shit, but okay. In Japanese, but okay. But you were, were you the only teacher in the room?
I was the only teacher.
You were the only teacher in the room?
Only teacher.
No, there was no. So you were not an assistant language teacher.
I was the teacher, and I was a bad teacher for like bureaucratic standards.
But you were the only teacher.
That's right.
That's funny. That more mirrors my situation.
Yeah.
Although I'm at a private. I'm at a selective private school. Yeah. So higher standard of students. And like I also am the one in charge of the class. But before I did this, I was an ALT, which I think is what, if you're not going the Eikaiwa route, the way most people end up is they go to JET. Which I didn't do JET. I did a similar program that was associated with my college. Right. But it was basically JET, just with a different name. Yeah. And when JET, you're an ALT, and that's like the complete opposite of Eikaiwa. That was a no work job. Yeah. Like in Sopranos, they have a cat, or like the mafia will use this term, but in Sopranos it's about the mafia, like where there is different classifications of jobs. There, like because you need a job, you need a technical job to fill out your taxes. So mafiosos will get like certain contracts and stuff with work, and there'll be like a no-show job, which is basically a job that you only have on paper and you don't even need to show up. But another category of job is like a no-work job, where you need to show up to work, but you don't need to do anything. You just have to actually show up. And that's what AOTing was like. AOTing was like a no-work job, where all I had to do was show up, and that was it. And like, sure, I had classroom time, but I was always with always supervised by an actual Japanese teacher. And basically, I was just there to... and shit. The joke is like you're a human tape recorder. Yeah. And some classes, like some teachers wanted more involvement from me, and that was fine. But like the expectation of a human tape recorder, some teachers wanted more. But that basically it was no work. Yeah. And it was chill. And then my contract finished, and then I needed a new job, and I had various reasons for staying in Japan. I was working several years as an ALT. My contract finished, and I needed another job, and for various reasons, I wanted to stay in Japan. And and specifically, I wanted a job in Tokyo, and I found one at another school, like an actual school. I would be a teacher. I wasn't going to be a Kaiwa or something. And I was like, well, AOTing was easy as shit.
Yeah.
Again, as I was previously describing, a no work job practically.
Yeah.
And then I got the situation that you described, Twotris, where like I was actually in charge of the classroom. And then, oh man, that changed so much. Like I went in expecting little to any work. And I mean, we've talked a lot about this, but my job's actually demanded quite a lot from me.
Right.
And what's funny too is like I even feel guilty saying that because like I still have the least workload of all the other teachers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the actual Japanese teachers are responsible for so much more. But even then, I'm just like, this is way more work than I signed up for, and I have the least amount of work of all the other teachers. But it's still like, I have to get up at ass crack, fucking 5 something every morning. Have to go through, stuff myself as a sardine into the trains, get over, and then work doesn't finish until 4:30. But like that's just technically speaking. Yeah. Sometimes you have to leave often. You have to leave later because there's other stuff you have to do. You know, and it's just more stressful actually having to be in charge of your own class, you know? As opposed to just, I'm just the guy, this guy's in charge, I'm just doing whatever.
Yeah, I just exist.
Well, that was another thing I was very stubborn about with the Japanese textbooks, or the English textbooks, so to speak, because they would always ask me, like, okay, you have to photocopy this and give this to the students and teach the lesson exactly as it's written on paper. And I'd be like, fuck you, I'm doing what I want to do. Yeah. And I would, like, at the beginning of every day, I would just kind of like script out these own little worksheets by myself. Like, okay, we're going to learn this grammar, we're going to learn that grammar, because I don't mean to flex, but I actually am multilingual and I know how to learn languages. And the way that they teach that shit in school, that's how you get anybody to hate how to do it. So I basically like, do it in a fun way where I felt like the kids would actually leave the class and kind of learn a little bit, but there were also that the kids just didn't give a shit. Like I had this one 3rd grade class where the teacher was really incompetent because like I don't really want to do like a really bad accent or anything on camera, but basically like we were learning how to say
elementary school, right?
Elementary school.
Because elementary school teachers are responsible for all the subjects.
Yes.
So how on earth could it be good for all of them? The amount of elementary school teachers who didn't know any English, who I remember having experiences as an AOT where again, I'm the subordinate.
Right.
And the teachers were actively teaching wrong English. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this situation because, on a larger scale, I don't want the teacher to lose face.
Yeah. Right.
It's just, but I'm like, you're actually teaching them the wrong thing.
See, I was in situations where the teacher had already long lost face, and it was just a fucking lost cause. Because like, we were teaching how to say, like, I am hungry, and the teacher says, like, I have a stomach. And and I could hear in the back that I say, that's not real English. Like, your accent's terrible. Like, the students are saying this, and I'm like, I don't really know what to say. And then you have these other kids who, for the sake of the bit, like, I'd hand them a worksheet that I did, and there's this kid in front of me who hated the class so much, so I'd hand it out, and eventually just...
Yeah.
And I'm trying to teach the class.
Yeah, you just fucking in the back.
Like, imagine being a real teacher, and the kid is just flapping a ripped page in front of you. And I specifically remember how hard it was to teach class. And I think, like, the principal was called, and the teacher just watched us like, you just get out of here, just stop the class. And I'm like, thank fucking God. But the other times, kids would be like, I hate English. I don't want to teach this. And I'd be like, then don't learn. No one said.
I'm not paying for you, so it doesn't fucking matter if you learn to me.
Exactly.
The amount of times I want to tell students, I don't give a shit whether you learn or study this. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just shut the fuck up. I don't care what you do. Just shut up.
Yeah. It's like, bro, you can literally draw on your page for all I give a fuck. Do whatever you want. Just let the other fucking kids learn, man, because they're paying money too.
And here's the thing I also say. I don't even give a shit whether other kids learn. It's just that I look bad if everyone's talking.
Yeah.
It's like...
Sure. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you're describing how the Japanese work life is very boring, and that's kind of like shown, I guess, more in your videos because you're unapologetic about it. I'm like, I don't want to put that on camera. No one's ever going to be interested in that, but turns out maybe they are.
No, that's what I like because because that is a grind that most Japanese people, working people
exactly
live. It's wake up fucking early, go to work, have lunch, go back to work, leave really late, maybe have drinks, get back home really late, and then go to sleep and get under 6 hours of sleep.
Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like the reason I actually started the channel, funnily enough, was because I wanted to show like people that want to move here. I wanted to show the actual reality of moving here, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna move to Japan, I'm gonna have a fucking great party, I'm gonna be fucking going out every weekend, and then you fucking come here and you like, I don't even want to leave my house on the weekend. You're like, I'm fucking tired, bro. I just worked fucking like 50 hours of my week, and now I have this weekend. Fuck, I'm not going out to party. Fuck that.
That's what inspired me to kind of do my own YouTube channel, where I guess you wanted to show the reality of it. I was looking for kind of an escape, because I'd wake up in the morning at like 6:45, make my coffee, take the train, and as I'm on the train, I just see all the miserable, tired people around me. Go to school, see the miserable teachers around me, see the kids who don't want to learn. Then I'd go back home, and then like my girlfriend would just be tired from work. I would be tired from work, and I'm like, I don't want to do any of this shit anymore. What am I doing? And I started like getting, I don't want to get too deep, but just started questioning my life a little bit. And it was at that point that I started making videos bitching about it on the internet. And after I started connecting with people there, I'm like, fuck this fake ass bullshit life. I don't want to live here. I want to actually go out and find the real creative artists who want to escape this shit. And ever since, it's been like my passion to, escape the 9 to 5 and live a life of variety and interest. And I think that's like, everyone's doing it in their own way, but to some degree, that is kind of like what your goal is, right? To connect with other creatives.
Yep, exactly right. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to show people, like, honestly, it's kind of like a diary as well for myself. Like, when I'm, like, fucking 50 years old, I can look back and be like, fuck, this day, you just look at this day, my child. This day fucking sucked. Or like show my kid, like, fucking the future, be like, shit like that.
That is something that the next generation is definitely going to have. Because, like, your parents talk about what it was like back then. You see, like, photos. Our kids are going to have full videos potentially.
Of me talking about my fucking life.
Exactly. You will no longer be able to bullshit your child about anything.
Exactly. Like, but it's also, like, like, if you can fucking randomly die, it's also, like, your family and friends also have, like, I guess, like, this footprint of you, like, if they ever, like, want to hear your voice or some shit.
Exactly.
That kind of vibe. But I mean,
while you guys were talking about this, I was trying to look up a now unavailable blog.
Right.
I don't really pay much attention to J-vloggers or bloggers in Japan, because I've been living here multiple years myself. At this point, I just don't pay attention to it, and a lot of it gets pretty samey, to be honest with you. That's actually what I liked about your thing. Is, well, some of the content you cover is kind of samey, like, let's go to this place, let's go to this place, and I'll be honest, just me personally, I just ignore those videos.
I mean, like, you've already fucking been there personally, so it's like, why would I watch this?
But what I liked is just the rawness, as we mentioned earlier, about how you're just like, this is my day, this is it, done. And it's like 3 minutes, like, wow, that's what that whole day is summarized. And I love the rawness of it. So you offered something unique in that sphere. But for the most part, it's pretty samey. But this guy, Ken C. Roy, who used to run a blog called, not a vlog, but a blog, like actual blog, writing blog, Japanese Rule of 7, was so great. He was a great writer, and he's been living in Japan for ages, at least 15 plus years. And he had a lot of good insights, and he was very clever with the way he would share his anecdotes and stories. And so he was one of the few who I followed. And for whatever reason, one day he just decided, you know what? My whole blog, delete. And so I was trying to find it on Internet Archive just now. But he mentioned one specific situation that mirrored a lot of what you were just talking about, getting on the train and seeing all the miserable people. And he was like, he did a blog post that was basically like, why Japanese women have kids. That was like the title of it, like, why Japanese women have kids. And he's like, this is why. I mean, even though there's like the whole thing of like people not having enough kids and stuff, he's like, this is the motivation, the number one motivation to have kids as a Japanese woman. And he paints this image. He's like, you're on the train, you're crammed in, you have like an hour commute, and you're just going back and forth to work, and then you come back crammed from work. It's like 10 o'clock. You go, you buy some cheap convenience store food, you heat that up, you eat it, maybe you drink a beer, you go to sleep. Next day, same shit. Exactly like you're showing on your channel. In, out. And every day when you're crammed in that train, sometimes you pass through and you see parks, and you see these women with children out there in freedom, and it plants an idea in your head of, if I had a kid, then I have an escape from this crap. And so then that for a while that idea is just there in your subconscious. But as you're more miserable, the years go by. You go from 22 to 25, then 27. The idea sprouts in your head, and you're like, marriage and kids is the way out of this. So then you finally manage to get a husband. Whether you trap him or whether you actually find a guy you want to be married with, whatever. And then, you get him to have a kid, and he's more than happy to get some action, get some action. So then you have a kid, you pressure him to get you pregnant. Bam, you have your kid. Now you get your, maternity leave. Yeah. Oh no, maternity leave's ending. What do? Bam, another kid. Bam. Then your second maternity leave's ending. Then you tell your husband, well, I have 2 kids to take care at home. I can't continue work. That's the escape plan, That's how you get out of this shit as a woman,
Fair. That's monstrously depressing, the way that you described that.
And that's how our boy Kenzie Roy described it. And I was like, wow, that is poetically awful but accurate.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, hey, whatever escapes you from this fucking life, to be fair. I mean, it is surprising to me that the passport rate is so low in Japan. It's like
passport.
Yeah, like people that actually own a passport.
Oh, yes, passports per capita or whatever.
I see. Yeah,
is super low, which is very surprising to me. But it also, I guess, isn't surprising because I feel like if you leave Japan and you experience work life somewhere else and you come back, you realize how much they work you here. So you're like in this sphere of like, why the fuck would I work here when I could work over there and do half the fucking work I was doing?
Well, that's what's funny. And I don't think it's exactly that. Although I think you have a point. I don't disagree with you, but I think there's a bigger picture here. But one is a lot of Japanese women, relatively speaking, compared to Japanese men, study abroad. More Japanese women go abroad in college to study for a year than men. Most men don't. And part of it is because most men are on the grind set here. Yeah. I need to focus my career on this. Women are more, they're focused on experience. And you know what, the way life is set up, women can get away with that. And so more women will end up going abroad and stuff than men on average in Japan. And they see that. And I remember talking with many Japanese exchange students of the female variety, girl Japanese exchange students, and I remember telling them they're complaining about life in Japan, and they mention stuff like that. I'm like, well, your English is really good. Yeah. Why don't you just move here? But only a very small fraction of them would even entertain the option to actually move abroad, let alone actually do it. A few would actually do it. Even fewer entertain the option. Most, I remember having this one conversation with a girl who was like, I hate Japan. I hate being there. And I'm like, so why don't you move here? She's like, I can't do that. Yeah. My mom's in, I have to take care of my family. That familial piety, that family obligations thing is very real. Yeah. And then I think it's a bit more expansive than that. There is a real xenophobia you will feel at some point as a foreigner in Japan. And that's why I'm using the word xenophobia, not racism, in that it's not exactly malicious, but just this feeling of they will never accept you as one of them. Yeah. You will at some point realize, no matter how delusional you are, no matter how good, a lot of people cope with the idea of if I just get really good at Japanese, doesn't matter. If I get fluent in Japanese, if I get the other mate or Matt, the other Matt in Japan, his Japanese is phenomenal. But I promise you, even if your Japanese gets as good as Matt in Japan's, and his is probably the best that you're gonna basically see, you will still not be accepted here.
Yeah.
So it's xenophobic in the sense that you won't be accepted. They treat you politely for the most part, but you will feel this exclusion.
Yeah.
And that comes from the identity. There's an identity. And that's what drags people back. Like this girl, like being Japanese is so important. Being Japanese means being in Japan. Yeah. And as a foreigner, you will never be Japanese. Yes. And they feel so much pressure to be Japanese. And I think it's because, this is kind of rant I've went with other people before, but I think, and actually Ken C. Roy, the blogger I was just talking about, he kind of talks about this before, it's because I think to be Japanese is different than to be like a lot of other nationalities. A lot of, like being American, for instance. You're born American. Yeah. Like, you're American, you're American. You're born in America, you're raised in America, you're American. In Japan, you have to, like, earn being Japanese. Like, even Japanese people have to earn being Japanese. Yeah. Like, there's a thing, like, I think it's called Kikoku Shuji, or something, Kikoku something.
Ah, you mean people who go, like, abroad, or...
It's basically Japanese who were raised as kids abroad and come back to Japan. Yeah. It's basically, in the technical term for it in English is returnees. Yeah. And basically, I mean, teaching at schools, I would have some of these. And it's basically kids who maybe from the ages of like 2 to 9 were raised in America and then they come back. Mm-hmm. And in Japan, like the Japanese school system is like, what do we do with these kids? And like a lot of them are treated like they're not even Japanese. Yeah, like they're mom, Japanese. Mom, born and raised in Japan. Yeah. Mom, both her parents are Japanese. Dad, same exact picture. Yeah. Like Japanese as Japanese can be. But just because this kid for 5 or 6 years spent some time abroad and is fluent in English, now the Japanese system and Japan in general is like, well, is this kid really Japanese? Yeah. And they're ethnically completely Japanese. They might be fluent in Japanese as well, but it's like, are they really Japanese?
That's true.
And the point that like Ken C. Roy makes really good in another blog is how the Japanese, like, to be Japanese is to go through the Japanese educational system. Mm-hmm. It's like boot camp. It's like a really extended boot camp. And it's like no soldier, like that's a commonality all soldiers have in common. You're not a soldier unless if you went through the hell of boot camp. Right. And to be Japanese is to be a soldier. Well, and it's like, well, you're not really Japanese unless if you went through the Japanese educational system.
Mm-hmm. I think what like keeps most people here from moving abroad as well is the sense of community you have with being Japanese. Like being Japanese, like of course we never get to experience that being Gaijin, but the sense that you are Japanese and you are accepted as a Japanese is probably very, liberating. You are part of the system. I think being part of the system is both good and bad in a way. You can be blatantly ignorant and think it's the best thing in the world. I love the system. I love my government. Or you can be like, I hate the system, but this is the system I am familiar with. Would I rather join this foreign system and not really fit in there? And then if I go there, I won't even fit in my system again. So it's kind of like that fear, you go there, you don't fit there, you come back, and then you're excluded from your system you originally were in. So, I think that's also a problem as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing about Japan that has always kind of bothered me particularly is that I have lived in a different foreign country before. In fact, the only reason I came to Japan was sort of a plan B because initially I wanted to move to France. The way that you like Japan is how I liked France. I studied like French history.
You weren't a weeb, you were a Francophile.
Yes, I was a Francophile. I still watch French radio. I still do it all the time, but I kind of keep it close to my heart because it's just like one of those things where most people don't have that interest. But when I was living in France, after I learned the language and I learned the culture, I started drinking red wine, going to the boulangerie, and like participating in French culture because one, it's Western. They have this like cultural differences to some degree are arbitrary. They really do believe that. I remember when I was going to school there and speaking to one of the supervisors, and at one point she looks at me, and I don't feel this way about myself, but she's like, Tristan, after speaking to you for so long, like you really just come off as like a real Parisian. Like, it looks like you've been living here your entire life. And she meant that, and she was from France. And I would get remarks like that all the time. Your French is really good. It's like you were raised here. It's like I can't even tell that I'm talking to an American. And I guess that kind of set up this expectation that I had for going to Japan. Now, don't get me wrong, I would still go on YouTube and see people telling me, talking about how you will never be accepted as a foreigner here.
Yeah,
you will always be a gaijin. So I had that in the back of my head, but I just didn't realize like how extreme it would be. Because in France, like, yeah, you know, like, oh, you know, you're American. Yeah, Americans, they have like this air to them of, you know, superiority, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, you speak French, we don't give a shit. You're one of us. That's how I always felt. But coming here to Japan, having a decent level of Japanese, there's still like this.
And I just want to do caveat. It's one thing if somebody says it themselves. Your Japanese is really decent, like really good, especially for how little you've been studying it, relatively speaking. Like your level compared to how long you've been studying it's really good. It's been like 2 years you've been studying it, and your level is very high.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just want to confirm that to the viewers because like I've been studying it for years and I've kind of plateaued and I've kind of gotten very complacent. Basically, I've gotten to my complacency level, but like I know what good Japanese sounds like, especially from a foreigner. Yours is high level, higher than mine. And you've been doing it for a lot less. So I just have to confirm to people that you do actually speak it very well.
You trying to get another beer, man?
No, that's not the reason I'm doing it because I want to add this to the. I think this is to add to the point that you're about to make, which is despite having really good Japanese.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Well, what pisses me off about a lot of, and this is not everybody, but there is a specific genre or type of Japanese person who will say, "Aha, gaikokujin dakara." Like, oh, because you're a foreigner, you think this, or because you're this. It's like there's a complete ignorance towards individuality and like personal development and how you became the person that you are. All of your attributes can in some way be attributed to being a foreigner, and therefore you are different from the culture here. And I feel like it's some blanket statement or blanket logic often used that I feel like is just, I really hate to say it, but it comes off very ignorant. It's not all Japanese people, but when I hear it, I roll my eyes. Because it's almost like you're denying yourself the ability to recognize the individuality of somebody else who comes from a different culture. Do you have a point that you wanted to make?
No, I think you should actually stay that way. No, that was really well put.
Thank you.
I also think, I mean, I don't know about you, but growing up in like the area I grew up in Australia is like we already don't really have like a set community because everyone is from everywhere. So it's like I already had that like never really had that sense of like, these are like the people that like I am supposed to be with, because like I mixed with everyone. So I never had that real sense of like, oh, because I'm going to be a foreigner, I'm going to be like different. Because I mean, being in a multicultural area, like it's like all different religions, all different races. And then coming to Japan where like there is actually like such a little amount of like I guess foreign like influence, especially like with food and like culture wise and like religion wise as well. But I also don't feel super excluded here because I feel like I never experienced like that inclusivity in like a one nationality community.
That's an excellent point that I was literally about to bring up myself.
Yeah.
So good on you. Because I feel that exact thing too. Is it's very common to hear people shit on what we were just doing. Like what we were just talking about is very standard people living in Japan conversation of, oh, you'll never fit in. Trust me, guys. You're like, trust me. I know you don't believe me, but if you experience for yourself, you'll never fit in. But there's actually a plus side to it as well. Yeah. And the plus side of it, like I found personally, like why do I still choose to be here? If I so quote unquote hate it so much, which is that's the thing. I would not use the word I hate it. It's just an observation. You won't fit in here. But that's not necessarily. There's some pros to that. There's some negatives to it, obviously, but there's some pros. One of the pros is that even back in America, especially New York where I grew up, but like honestly anywhere in America, I've been throughout the country. I've never felt like I quite fit in there for various reasons. Perhaps a big part of that has to do with the fact that my mom's not American, so like I'm quite literally mixed culturally. Yeah. But there are various aspects where I never quite felt like I fit in America, and it's not that I fit in Japan because I don't. Yeah. But feeling like you don't fit in your own country where you're supposed to feel like you fit in is an extremely awkward, uncomfortable feeling. At least in Japan, it's like, well,
it's expected.
I'm literally a foreigner. I'm literally an outsider. So to feel like an outsider doesn't feel as awkward when you literally are one.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too for me. Like growing up in Wisconsin, I don't know. I mean, like it's kind of like a sort of a touchy subject, so I'll be as diplomatic as I can. But just like because New York is like so multicultural. You're always like growing up in Queens and everything, and you said you grew up in a multicultural environment. Like in Wisconsin, you do have like the Latino neighborhoods and then the Asian neighborhood, like in the very center of the city. But it's such a small number of people that you don't really have a lot of like a direct contact with that. Basically, it's just like there's the white side of town, and then there's the black side of town. And growing up, I never really thought about it too much, but you know, just like you don't even. In fact, in not thinking about it, I just kind of like growing up. It's like the classic, oh, I have a black friend kind of thing. It's my point being that my primary friend group when I was in middle school is there is the blue-eyed, blonde-haired white kid. There's me. There's the Puerto Rican guy. There was the black guy, and then there was the Asian guy. And we used to joke about this. Yeah. We were just like, who gives a fuck? You know, we're all friends. Yeah. We have the same sense of humor, and we all get along. There was never, like, you know, any kind of, cultural identity that we held on to, which I guess made us want to adhere to, you know, to some group we feel loyalty towards. And coming to Japan, I don't know, it just kind of, like, reminds me of just the historical context that I still can't really understand as an American, because I feel like it's just been inculcated into me that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, if you're cool, if you're a cool person, if I like your ideas, if we vibe, I really, like, I hate to sound cliche, I don't really give a fuck where you're from.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, but it's more of a, I guess it's a cultural significant thing for a lot of like Japanese and like specifically the like I think China maybe as well. I don't know too much about China, but those kinds of ones are like they want to keep their community like culturally the same.
Yeah.
Or
true.
It's like very historical for them to remain true.
But there are pros and cons to both sides. Yeah. Like we were just sharing mostly the cons, but also some of the pros. Like in my instance of, it's better to feel like an outsider when you're an outsider than when you're supposed to feel like an insider. Yeah. And to hone in more on that, that's a big con for what we were just talking about for Japanese people. Yeah. Is that a lot of Japanese people, there's that pro of like, you're here in Japan, you went through the school system, you did that, you fit in, right, quote unquote. But actually, I think a lot of Japanese people feel the way I felt in America, where they're like, I don't quite fit in here. Yeah. But for them, it's an even bigger trap of being here. I think that's one of the reasons why you have such a big hikikomori population, like over 1 million hikikomori. Yeah. These are people who feel stuck here. Like, they don't fit in. They don't feel like they fit in Japan. But to them, being Japanese is the world. Like, that's what they are. So therefore, they feel like they don't fit in the world. A lot of them, just because of Japan don't even speak English well or know any English at all. So it's like, what do you do? What other country speaks Japanese? Yeah. It's like, if you don't know, like at least, if you're American or whatever, you could go abroad, different places.
Fair point.
You know English. That first of all, that's the lingua franca of the world. But even if you just confined yourself to countries outside of America, like if you're American, that speak English fluently, well, you got Canada, you got Australia, you got Britain, you got New Zealand. I'm sure I'm missing one or two. Sorry. Ireland. Was it Ireland? Oh, okay, I guess Ireland. Yeah, Ireland. Sorry. But like you have various countries that speak English fluently. They have been trying. Ireland has been trying to bring back the Irish language recently. Yeah. But
Gaelic, right?
Yeah.
Canada.
But but and that's the 51st state,
Yeah.
No, that's a joke. That's a joke, guy. That's a joke. But,
it's a joke.
But that's just the places that speak it like basically as a national language. Basically, I know Ireland. They have a complicated relationship with that. Most people in Ireland can speak English very well. But then throughout Europe, a lot of people, like Germany, I've never met a German who doesn't have fluent English. Right. Never. I've never met one.
I actually feel like okay, keep going.
I mean, really, what I'm just cooking here is like, if you want to leave America for whatever reason, you're like me and you feel isolated, whatever. You don't.
have options.
You have options out. If you're in Japan, that's the con of it. If you feel like you don't fit in here, where the fuck do you go? You can't speak English, most likely. It's in any other language. It's hard as fuck to learn because Japanese is so different from most other languages. The closest it has in common is basically Korean, grammatically speaking, and Chinese, just because half of the language is stolen from China, at least the written language. But like even then, it's so different because they basically stole ancient Chinese. So it's like basically it's difficult to learn a different language as a Japanese person. And where do you go? So you could feel. I could see how a lot of Japanese people feel very trapped here.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like just speaking linguistically, I really haven't run into a language that sounds quite or functions quite like Japanese. Because like, I guess just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what I know. So obviously, I know English. I'm fluent in French. I'm fluent in Japanese, but I really don't like talking about it too much. I used to be fluent in Portuguese. I know a little Russian, a little Swedish, and a little German. And like learning those languages, especially Swedish and German, if you can like word for word match the English words, and it sounds like grammatically basically the same. So for those guys, like if you're in Sweden, like fuck Sweden, I want to go move to England or I want to go somewhere else. Like it's so easy for them to learn, whereas like in Japan, dude, like
from your linguistic experience, will you say that Japanese is one of the harder languages to learn?
I would say that Japanese grammatically, when you actually understand the grammar of Japanese, it's actually easier than French, and it's actually easier than English. But because it shares very few historical, like it's like completely separated, it's hard to get used to. But once you get used to the logic, then it kind of makes sense. And with Japanese, the way that they think here, like the whole like, if you're different from us, then you are not us. There's just this kind of like, everything that is not here is different, and that creates like a complex where I hear constantly from some of the folks I've met here where, like my English is not good, or it's too hard, it's too difficult. It's like, if you put your mind to it, actually open up a textbook or watch some movie with subtitles and make the effort to break down all the parts of speech, you'd realize that it's not as difficult as you're saying, and it's just an excuse to keep yourself from learning it.
Bad at English is in some cases a humble brag in Japanese culture. I've noticed. Like it's because
really
it proves how Japanese you are. Because like I said, Japanese is something you have to earn. You have to prove how Japanese you are. And then on that thing, there's like a scale of it. So like I've had just through various job experiences and stuff, I've met some relatively not super, but relatively high profile people. And I remember one time meeting a Japanese politician, like a low level politician, but like a politician all the same.
All politicians are low level.
Well, that's a different story. But like he had like his assistant. And she was fluent in English, and she was like translating the whole time. And I was at an izakaya. We were meeting this guy for business with a association I was affiliated with at the time, that I was working for at the time, and he didn't know any English at all, and he kept on it was such a humble brag. He was talking to his assistant. He was like, "Oh my god, you're," and he would say this all in Japanese. "Your English is so good. I could never learn English. I could just never do it. It's like impossible for me." But the way he was doing it, and the way he was like kind of showing the power dynamic of like he's the boss, and I can never learn Japanese. He's basically implying like I'm rewarded with this top position because I'm more Japanese than other people. And part of the thing that proves I'm more Japanese than other people is because I'm just like incapable. Like the way he was phrasing it is like he's incapable of learning English. I'm so Japanese, it's incapable for me to learn another language. And that's why I'm here and you are down there translating for me.
Holy shit. My mind is blown right now because that's actually so true.
So you've witnessed.
I've witnessed this.
Yeah.
I've witnessed this all the time. I'm more Japanese. It's like I don't really get this this inverse superiority that they have here, where like I know less than you, therefore I'm better. Where in the world? I mean, God, Jesus, maybe in the States to some degree, but regarding language, that's very much a Japanese thing. You know much better than I do, but now that you've put that into words, I can definitely say that's true. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to get the nuances of Japan, you actually have to learn Japanese. That's a topic that I want to like touch on. I guess it's like if you don't know Japanese, I feel like you don't actually know the proper culture. You can't experience even if you're not technically Japanese, you still can to some form actually experience the culture and the significance of the culture.
Right.
Versus if you don't know any Japanese and you're excluded, you're going to be excluded, but at least you understand.
Yes.
If you actually speak the language, you understand the nuance behind it, you understand the reason, the culture, the historical reasoning as well. But if you don't speak and you just feel excluded and you get mad because you're excluded, is because you never understood why.
Well, I mean, there are many. You want to go?
Well, it's just funny you mentioned that because I think that's also a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, this is all on me. I take responsibility for this. But my sister is a huge weeb, like me. She's 5 years younger than me. I had influence on her. She's taken very different directions with her weebdom, but I'm the one who introduced her to otaku culture, all that shit, you know? And she's currently living in Japan right now. She has a job here for a year, but she's been only working here for a year. She had a 2-year contract, and she's like, I'm done. I'm leaving here. And she put so much effort into getting really good Japanese. Like, her Japanese is better than mine. Because, like I said, I kind of gave up at a certain point. And I've just willingly plateaued. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe at some point I'll pick up the books again and study again. But I've kind of just plateaued at an upper intermediate level. Yeah. I'm like, I could do most things I want here without problem. I can live and understand the context of most situations just fine with upper intermediate Japanese. But my sister really, really wanted to get it good. And she found it so frustrating that despite being so good at the language, that she still is being actively excluded from so much stuff. And she lives in a rural part of Japan, to be fair. She's not in Tokyo. So, but like she just decided, fuck it. I'm done. I'm not even going to finish my contract here. I'm going to end early. I'm leaving. Yeah. It frustrates her that she put all the effort. Right. But then, on the other hand, I've met people, and Twotris, you and I know somebody. I mean, I don't know the person, but you've talked about him. Like, he's been living here for ages, like decades, and he doesn't even know Japanese. Really. And it's kind of like the reverse, like the ignorance is bliss thing. It's kind of like because you don't know Japanese, you kind of get like the stuff doesn't affect you as much.
He told me that he stopped learning Japanese because he started to understand what was being said around him, and that turned him off by the ignorance of the people. Now that is his words.
And that I get that. I think in some sense that's what happened with me, where I'm just kind of like, I understand what's being said, and first of all, the utter monotony of most conversations I overhear, and two, it was just like, is it even worth it? Well, like, I don't know, I don't exactly agree with him, but I sympathize. I get where he's coming from.
What I wanted to say about the Japanese language in particular, and look at us, 3 foreigners acting like we understand Japan, right?
Ding.
Well, everyone knows that Japan is a high context culture, but I've also noticed that because English speakers value precision in their language, we tend to use a lot of homonyms. For example, like if you take the word like happy, glad, chipper, content, chocked full of bits. In Japanese, most people would never really go beyond ureshi.
Yeah.
Because if you say ureshi, you can tell enough about what's being said by their face. That's not to say that direct translations don't exist for those other English words, but I specifically remember speaking to one of my friends who's a Japanese native speaker who said, if you're going to use a particular word, there are very few that you need to actually use to convey a specific feeling, and it would sound weird if you were to say anything else. So, I mean, like, the word pretty, like kire, you wouldn't say like uruwashi. Like that sounds too poetic. Like, why are you saying uruwashi? Just say kire, you fucking dumbass. Whereas in English, instead of saying beautiful, you could say like, glamorous or gorgeous or something. And the use
especially in writing.
Exactly.
Like,
Well,
you do not want to use the same word too often. Like, it's just basically an unwritten rule. It's not an actual written rule.
And that's one of the things that he actually told me, is that in Japanese it's perfectly okay to keep using the same word, because why would you use any other word if it already conveys the proper information? And that blew my fucking mind. Absolutely. Because we as English speakers were like, vary the words, find the homonyms, find the synonyms, you know. Yeah. So that's true. That was just something that really.
And that touches on my point about why I've just gotten complacent with upper intermediate Japanese, is because you could just get away with basically everything. Once you get past the intermediate level to upper intermediate, you can basically live your life on your own for the most part. You can do most things. Yeah, sure, sometimes more complex words will come up, like when you're dealing with bureaucracy and thing. But like basically for the most part, you can get away with just living here.
Well, the thing about Japan is you can get by with just learning the language, and I guess as like a linguist myself who loves learning languages, it's just like there's always a curiosity that's like that fuels my learning, and I can't help but be curious. I don't want to. Like, you can get complacent, and you can stop at some point, because ultimately you realize that you're never going to be accepted as a Japanese. And I full well know that. However, there's just like, I'm curious in the culture, and I want to know how these people think, and I always expect there to be some kind of like kernel of truth or cultural difference that enlightens me in the end. Like, for example, I don't know, like this isn't really enlightening, but we were talking about context, and I remember... You know, Japanese people, they do this thing where they will delete messages a lot. You'll send something, or they'll send something, and you don't read it in time, and then just like unsend it online. And I always thought that like, oh, I fucked up because I didn't read it. But and then I would say something like, you know, if you're upset with me, if you're mad at me, just like please let me know, because I don't want to bother you. And they'll tell me like, oh, you're mad at me. That sounds, you know, that's not a great phrasing, is it? Instead of, I don't like the way you're saying that. Stop implying that I'm mad at you. That's not great phrasing, is it? Right? Yadane is how they say it. Yeah. And I guess there's just like the whole reading the context and realizing that people are speaking in 3 layers of like context in order to convey information. I find that really fascinating because, I don't know, like in the West, everything is in language. Everything is conveyed in words. Do you want to say something, Matt?
No.
No, okay.
All good.
And like another thing that happened to me with my private Japanese teacher is she was born in 1960, you know, very classic, you know, conveys everything in context. And I used to always say, hey, let's hang out on Saturday. Saturday would come like, oh, actually I'm busy. And then another time would happen like, oh, actually there's this book that you should read. Maybe I should get it to you, or maybe I should buy this book for you. I'd never buy the book because it's just like an idea.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And English speakers and Americans, we talk in ideas and potentials that might happen, but we don't really we don't attribute any weight to the potential. And at some point, she starts getting colder and colder towards me, and I notice that she's kind of a bitch whenever we talk about like, you know, my life or her life or potentials. I'm like, oh, it's so great to have you as a friend, and I love hanging out with you. She'd be like, yeah, I guess. Forget that kind of thing. And eventually, like, I just noticed that she's clearly upset, and I don't know what the hell's wrong, and I have to like shake it out of her. And eventually, after sitting her down with a cup of coffee and be like, look, you have to assume or know that I'm a dumb American, and if you don't tell me what is wrong, I am not going to know what the fuck is wrong here. And eventually she says to me in the words, kotoba yurui, which means your words are light. Every time that you speak, you say that you're going to do something, or that there's the potential to do something, but you never do it. And that bothered her. And I think with the Japanese, it's like, when you say something, there's always a strong contextual weight, probably kind of like as heavy as that thing was right now. When you speak, and if you don't, you will be judged for that. But then the judgment itself won't be conveyed to you directly. You have to figure out yourself.
Yeah.
Scary stuff, man.
But it is what it is, ne. Shogunai na.
Shogunai na. Shikatanai na. C'est la vie. Ça se le va.
Exactly right.
Right?
Alright, well, I feel like we've covered this topic. Beating a dead horse now, I feel like.
Yeah. We got really wrapped up in the Japanese.
We did, we got wrapped up in the...
Yeah,
do you still want to talk about AI art?
Nah, we can do that another time.
Okay.
Yeah, fair.
We got our thing. Yes?
Yeah. That was DW. subscribe to Made in Japan. Or
Yes.
me, as I point to him.
Scrutly Motley.
Scrotly Motley.